Senator Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Dunford, to you and your family, you've done an extraordinary job in Afghanistan and every other assignment that you've taken on. The President chose wisely to make you the next Commandant of the Marine Corps, and I think you will get a overwhelming vote in a bipartisan fashion because you've deserved it and you earned it. And to your family, thank you for your service to our country. As to Afghanistan, do you agree with me if there's a failure to get this election closed out in an acceptable fashion where somebody acknowledges defeat and there's a failure to form a unity government thereafter, no amount of American troops is going to make Afghanistan successful?
I agree with that, Senator.
As a matter of fact, if that doesn't happen, I'd be the first one to say to get the hell out of there. So to the Afghans, in case you're listening, that's my view. Now, let's assume for a moment that can all be accomplished, and I think it will. 2 lanes, CT, train, advise, assist, numbers. You're okay with the numbers in 15, is that correct?
I am, Senator.
You're okay with the regional approach being in place in 15?
I am, Senator.
Let's talk about what we lose over time. We have about 7,000 special forces types in the mix right now on the ground today.
We do, Senator.
By January of 2015, it will be 3,000.
Approximately, Senator.
By January 2017, it will be basically 0.
It isn't determined at this time, Senator.
Yeah, it is. It is determined at this time. The President has announced he will go to a security cooperation force in 2017, or did I miss it?
No, Roger, Senator, if you're talking the
No, I'm talking about the plan in place. I'm not talking about changing the plan. I'm talking about the plan the President has adopted. Do you agree it will be virtually 0?
Certainly close to that, Senator.
Okay. Now let's look at the threats we face. Do you see by the end of 2016 any reasonable possibility that the al-Qaeda types, al-Qaeda core, al-Qaeda affiliated groups, other groups that live and thrive on the Afghan-Pakistan border will be contained in such a fashion as to not to represent a threat to the homeland? Is that remotely possible?
I don't see it at this time, Senator.
Okay. So your view that the threat by the end of 2016 that we face to the homeland is going to be extinguished, I could not agree with you more, but our CT forces will be, unless somebody changes this. Do you agree that's a high-risk strategy, given the likelihood of the threat?
Unless it's mitigated by Afghan or Pakistan.
On paper, it's a high-risk strategy.
From a CT perspective.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the delta to be filled in from 7,000 to 0. If you had to grade the Afghan-Pakistan working relationship on anything, particularly counterterrorism, what grade would you give it?
Today, a D.
D. The difference between our counterterrorism capability and the Afghans, how would you rate that difference?
Significant.
Yeah. Okay. Now, let's talk about the other aspect, train, advise, and assist. You were asked to evaluate the plan on paper, and you said if everything works out well, that by 2017 on the train, advise, and assist lane, we might be okay.
It would be possible to develop sustainability by that time.
And there's a lot of assumptions that have to be made and met. Is that correct?
There are, Senator.
As a matter of fact, some of these assumptions are pretty enormous, right?
There are significant assumptions.
To hit all the gates, would it be akin to kicking a 65-yard field goal?
Senator, it would be difficult to hit all the gates exactly as we've outlined.
Well, I think it'd be kicking a 65-yard field goal into the wind, but that's just my 2 cents worth. Now, this is on paper. So my statement to the committee is that on paper there's a disaster in the making to our homeland and to losing all the gains we fought for inside of Afghanistan by drawing down too quick and not being able to help the Afghans in a reasonable fashion. If it does change, I'll be the first to applaud the changes, but if it doesn't change, it is a complete, absolute disaster in the making. As to political reconciliation between the 2 candidates, are you optimistic that this will work out?
Senator, I am.
are you optimistic that the Afghan people will continue to want us around?
I'm absolutely optimistic about that.
So there is absolutely no reason for any American politician to believe that we're not welcome to stay in Afghanistan.
Senator, both presidential candidates, as well as the vast majority of the Afghan people, support the bilateral security agreement and a continued U.S. presence.
If al-Qaeda is able to regenerate in this region and our CT presence goes down to virtually zero, would you expect an attack on our homeland in the next 5 years?
Certainly based on the intent of the enemy, I would, Senator.
Lots at stake, right?
There is, Senator.
Now, as we go into evaluating our force structure, what have we done to the Marine Corps, in your opinion, if we get back on the road to sequestration?
Senator, as I've looked at what sequestration does to the United States Marine Corps at a force level of 175,000, it really gets to the issues that we've talked a little bit about here this morning. It's an inability to balance the need to be ready for today's crises with the requirement to meet at least a minimum threshold of investment for modernization, infrastructure, and other programs that support Marines. And I think you're really on a path, without overstatement, to use General Meyer's comment from the 1980s, you're really on a path to a hollow force if you have sequestration and you maintain a core of 175,000 Marines. I don't think there's any question about that.
Would you agree with me that Congress will have done more damage to the Marine Corps than the enemy that you could face on the battlefield?
Senator, there isn't an enemy that has had much success against Marines, so I would agree with that.
Thank you for your great service. Look forward to seeing you in the future.